Well, hello, and welcome to another week's tour through our front yard, as we call it, our front yard garden tour. This is number 27, I believe, for the year of 2025, and it is September 5th. This is our first video in the month of September. Got butterflies going crazy this morning on our zinnias, and it's a beautiful Friday morning, clear as a bell. It's right around 75 degrees right now. It's just about perfect weather for a tour of the garden. So we're going to go ahead and get started. As always, there's our little butterfly friend again. Let's see if we can get a close-up of him or her. We get some of the prettiest butterflies here. I don't know different species or whatnot, but they are gorgeous, and they love these zinnias. They love our butterfly bushes and some of the other plants that we have, especially around the backyard. But zinnias are still doing very well now. If you get these tall zinnias, and these are about 4 feet in height, most of them, they start to look kind of crummy. The plants themselves, like the stalk and the base and so on, a lot of the leaves start to brown out, but the flowers are still doing great, and they probably will throughout September, depending on the weather. And if we start to get cooler or colder weather a little bit sooner, they may start to fade out. But for the time being, they're doing really, really well. As I always like to go on about this particular bed of zinnias is really varied in color. We've got all kinds of different shades of pink and reds, yellows, even one that's, at first glance I was going to say it was white, but it's actually very, very pale yellow. But these are really pretty. They're very low maintenance. We put in the seeds into coffee cups on our porch last April, put them in about 4 to 6 weeks later, and they have taken off. Really haven't had to do anything maintenance-wise. I haven't even fertilized them, and they're just going crazy. And I can't even imagine what they would do if we fertilized them. They'd probably just be out of control in terms of flowers. So not much else in that bed. I'll come back, and before I completely walk away, sometimes I feel kind of bad. There are some phlox that are hiding back in here, and they're only about a 1.5 feet tall, so they're completely buried in all of this. Now, we did have some morning glories, some really pretty purple ones as of last week, but I got rid of those. They were starting to fade, not doing a whole lot, and the vines were everywhere, just making kind of a mess. And I've been trying to clean things up, make this look a little bit nicer. Now, we have a little variation, I should mention this too, of a morning glory, a little tiny red and yellow one, and this is not one that we planted, so I'm not sure where it came from. And we only get a handful of flowers out of it, but it's really pretty, so I'm leaving it for the time being. And then coming up towards the house, this triangle bed here, as you can see, I sprayed for all the grass that has grown into it last weekend, and it has worked very well. But now we've got a lot of dead grass in there. I also went through and pulled weeds, and I somewhat deadheaded this petite knockout rose. I'm hoping that we'll get some more flowers before the end of the year. It looks to me, since just last weekend, I did this on, I believe, Sunday. Looks like we're getting some new growth already, and I've said all along, if I could just get out here and do some deadheading, it would make a big difference. And so I finally did that. I'm looking to put in quite a bit more work into weeding and deadheading and just cleaning up the garden in general over the next few weekends. And I'm hopeful I am hopeful that it will translate into a little more productive garden next year, and should look a little better in the fall. More zinnias over here. These are more of the just sort of what I call the flat type, which is just one layer of petals like you see here. Now, a couple of them are 2 layers, and even one here has several layers, but most of them are flat, and we don't have quite the variation of color up here. No yellows, just pretty much all variations of red and pink, but still absolutely beautiful. And then back here we have our climbing rose, which even though it's lost most of its leaves due to black spot over the year, it's still putting out lots and lots of flowers. It's done this every year. It's a really dependable plant. It's been a really enjoyable one to watch each year, and really out of all the climbing roses that we have in the front, it's the only one that's doing anything. We have 4 over here, and they really don't do much. We get a handful of flowers and really bad black spot problems, so they just they don't look all that good. Unfortunately, it's something I'm going to have to probably cut back on next year, and hope we can maybe start again and have a little more success. They also need to be sprayed because they're not particularly disease resistant. So also here, and really kind of peaking at this point, are the black-eyed Susans. As you can see, hundreds of them. These have just grown on their own. They've done very, very well. We did not plant them up here, but they are really perfect timing-wise. I say this a lot because they give us a nice backdrop of yellow behind all the zinnias. And at this time of year, there isn't much else going on in this bed. We get a lot in the spring with the irises and some of the climbing roses and some other things, but by this time of year, really the zinnias are about the only other thing blooming up here, with a couple of exceptions I will just point out. We have still some of these Russian sage, and you can kind of see a few down in here. These tiny little delicate purple flowers. They're not doing a lot at this time of year, but they are still giving us some color, so it's kind of a nice alteration, or not alteration, a nice alternative to all the yellow. Also, it's worth mentioning this. We just have one of these right now, but it's worth showing off, and this is a dahlia. Unfortunately, these dahlias get so top heavy that they fall over, especially when the plants or the flowers get wet. I'm going to try to keep this one up, see if it will do that, if it'll stay up at all. But you know, beautiful flower. We've had a lot of trouble with our dahlias in general, trying to get them to flower and so forth. But that one at least is doing really well. That's the second large maroon colored flower that we've gotten off of that one. Now we're back over to some zinnias. Now these are a little different morphology. There are several layers of petals. The plants overall, or the flowers overall, are much smaller than the others. But again, we're getting a nice variety of color, like we did out at the mailbox bed. This peach color is really nice, and we have this darker sort of orangish color. So it's really fun to watch these come up and thrive. Then as we move over into this area, this is more of a spring bed, so there isn't a lot to see here. But the hydrangeas that were bright pink are now just sort of a dull pink, and they'll continue to gradually fade in color. Same thing over here until they're just kind of a brown color by the end of the summer. Having said that, I'm going to just show our little citrus grove here. Now, I had noticed that we were losing a lot of leaves, both on the lemon over here. This lemon's looking really sad at this point, and then even on the orange, which looks a lot healthier. Turned out a friend came over and told me that there was a parasite, a little spider mite on the leaves. So I went through and sprayed them really thoroughly, and it seemed like the little fine, almost dust-like coating from the mites and their eggs and so forth seemed to go away. So I'm hopeful that we'll get some new leaves out of these. I'm continuing to watch my 2 lemons growing here. One there and one here. But it'll probably be a few more months before they're completely ripe. And then coming back over here, there's one little interesting plant that sort of blooms irregularly for us, and it's this gardenia. Beautiful white flowers on this shrub. I'm not seeing much else in the way of buds right now, but some years this does really well, some years not so much. But it does give us a little bit of color in that bed, because it's really the only thing that's blooming right now. All of our lilies that we put in back in February, the bulbs, gladiolas, all this stuff is long since finished up for the year, and certainly all of our snapdragons right here, you can see those, they're all finished up for the year. We'll see if they come back next year. And then I did some cleaning out in this bed last weekend. This is mostly a spring bed. There's not a lot to see here. There are a few azalea flowers. I think we'll get more of that come fall. But right now they're just kind of teasing us. But we have some viburnum back here. I had cut off some of the shoots that were going way up into the tree. I'd like to see these plants focus more on their flowering next year instead of just the growth of the plant itself. It was kind of the same thing that I did with this butterfly bush, and it seemed to have paid off. We got more flowers this year like this one. And even now in September, we're still getting some flowers. Not a tremendous number, but enough that we're getting some nice purple color. And again, there isn't a whole lot of color in this bed right now. The other thing that I did this past weekend was to finally deadhead all these knockout roses. They had some huge seed pods on them, and it's a little early yet to see if it's going to make a big difference or if we get any more flowers. There's a neighbor down the street who has similar knockout roses, and he deadheads on a regular basis, and as of last week he had a huge number of red roses on his. So I'm hopeful before the end of the year that we'll get some buds and some more flowers, but time will tell. There are a few buds right now, and as you can see, a couple of red roses that are out, but not a lot. And then I'll step back for a moment. Our just since last week, our crepe myrtle has lost most of its dark pink flowers. There's still a few, but last week it was still pretty well in bloom, and I'm thinking we had a fairly heavy rain last night for a short time. It looks like that may have washed some of those away, and I'm not sure if we'll get any more or not at this point. We'll see. And we'll come up and finish the front yard with this oval bed. Kind of interesting to see this plant right here is coming back for a second wind. This bloomed in the spring for the most part. I always call it rock candy. It has these brilliant bluish purple flowers on them, and it's the name of it is escaping me right now, but it's done very well. Other things through here like these that look sort of grassy, those are spring flowers. Not a lot to show there. Our dahlias are doing really well all of a sudden. Now, I've talked about these on previous episodes. We tend to have a problem with the flowers not opening up. They turn brown right as they're about to open. I wasn't sure if it was a parasite or what it was, but now all of a sudden in the last week, we've got a bunch of these that have opened up, and they're doing really well. And these are about 3 or 4 inches across. They have just white with very faint purple edges to them. Really pretty flowers. Unfortunately, like all of our other dahlias, they tend to get really top heavy. So one of the things I want to do this weekend is take, we have some of these little trellises that we've gotten for the climbing roses and elsewhere, and I want to put those up so that these aren't falling out into the yard so much, make them a little easier to see. Here we have another dahlia. This is the only one of these, is a bright red, brighter than the maroon one that we saw earlier. It's doing really well. We've got a little bit of phlox back in there, and then we have this wildflower. I don't know what this is. It's probably really more of a weed. It's kind of a viney plant, but it gives those beautiful bluish flowers, and we get those every year at the end of summer. And then we have a whole bunch of zinnias here, mostly the smaller variety again, mostly pinks too. A few orange, but primarily pink. And then behind that are our three big knockout roses. I have not gotten around to deadheading these. I am going to do that this weekend if time allows, and hopefully we'll get some more flowers out of these before the end of the summer. We've got salmon, pink and red, and usually they bloom in the spring, and then we've got a lot of these big seed pods like this, and those will kill the growth of any further flowering as the year goes by, as the energy of the plant is going entirely into the seeds and not into putting out more flowers. Got glads over here, monarda here, they're all finished up. I've been cutting back a little bit on those so that they're not out in the yard so much. Makes it a little easier to mow. Our mower came through yesterday, and we're already having a lot of leaves falling. It is that time of year. This plant, I don't know what sort of tree this is, but its leaves fall a little bit earlier than the rest, usually in early September. And you can see a lot of them already in the bed here. But not much else going on here. We do have one little pink rose on that climber, but again, I'm going to try to do some deadheading and weeding in this bed this weekend. Like I said, I've worked on just about all of the rest of the front yard. I've got a lot of work to do in the backyard. We have tremendous numbers of weeds there. But like this area here, we don't really have anything. This hillside has not been real good for growing, so we just have some ground cover evergreens here, and they've slowly spread. We're hoping that they will continue to spread over the next few years, give us a little better control of weeds and prevent erosion. We have a few weeds up in here, but not a tremendous number. And that's really about it for the front yard for right now. Again, a lot of color here at the end of the summer, but we're going to see a little bit more and a little different sort of color in the backyard. So we're going to start that video in just a moment. And as always, hope it's sunny wherever you are. And until next time, happy gardening.